Hi, it's Emily with Emily Talks, and today I'm going to talk about codependence and accountability, particularly because that is something that I have currently going on in my life. And a huge part of the message that I want to have is that, you know, just like me, I know that there are other people who struggle with these particular issues, and in the sake and in the context of journaling, I really want to talk about things that are going on directly in my life as they happen so that I can bring visibility to that. I can show vulnerability and acceptance for what's going on in my life, and then also deploy the skills that I have learned in real time for myself and expose what those skills are for you as well. And hopefully, in so much as I am able to give myself grace, or that you are able to extend that grace and understanding to me, that you can also apply that then for your own self, because growth is worth it. Change is worth it, and it's tough. And right now, today, I'm really feeling that. I'm really feeling the sting of my own actions in my life, and taking responsibility and learning that, or accepting that growth is still necessary, that hiding and cowering doesn't solve any of my problems, even though it may help in that one moment to feel numb. It's not going to help me achieve my goals in the long term. And changing my life is essential. Making differences in my life is essential. The places that I have come from are places where I ask myself questions like, is it morally right that I'm a mom? And sometimes that answer to me feels like a no. Just simply from the place of brokenness, avoidance, maladaptive coping mechanisms, maladaptive worldview that really interrupt my basic concepts of life. And, not to foist off responsibility onto, oh, well, that's what happened to me, and therefore I can't be held accountable. The moment that I release accountability, the moment I no longer have the capacity to change. Because if I'm not personally accountable, that means that I don't have that responsibility. And if I don't have that responsibility, that means that I don't have the possibility to take that on into the future and make a change and make a difference. Bad things happen, and they have made real impact in my life. And I'm still responsible for creating a better life for myself. And that doesn't make me a failure. It means that I have real challenges that directly affect, what, that directly put me in situations where I have to make a choice to be a morally good person, or somebody who chooses something that's morally not good, that's bad. And avoidance is bad. Not taking responsibility for my own actions is bad. Not accepting that, a situation is as it is, and accepting the hurt and the pain or the whatever, being with that experience instead of, putting myself into a fog state and then addressing the experience. To kind of tie that back into dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT, step back, ground, do distress tolerance, come back to the issue, address the issue. And the difference between, distraction and avoidance is whether or not I return back to the issue. And right now, what I'm facing is repercussions of avoidant behavior. And I don't want to say in the past, because I still struggle with avoidant behavior. Every time that I choose to sit on the couch and watch another episode of a show, or, instead of cleaning my house, every time that I ask my son to, go on his devices so that I don't have to interact with him because I feel overwhelmed. All of those different things are avoidant behaviors. And to me, they feel deeply shameful. Talking about that openly is really tough. And I feel like I'm opening up myself for incredible criticism. And I easily could be, it's not right. It's not good. It's not okay. But, with awareness comes accountability. Awareness that what I'm doing is not okay, change is possible, and what do those steps look like to come about to change? What is, come to a place of change. So, what my recent journey has looked like is researching and studying what it looks like to employ, we hear all the time, just get over it, let that go, you stop dwelling. But what does that mean? What does that actually mean? What does it mean? Something that I went through in a distress tolerance partial hospitalization program that I attended. And I'll do shorts on a lot of these different things because in the past few days, I've really been exercising my distress tolerance skill. And today I had an absolute bombshell go off that I wouldn't say was dropped on me, but that, I was just skirting around it, like hoping that it would never cause an issue in my life. And it's like, well, you're walking through a bomb field. What do you think is going to happen? I feel like there was plenty of opportunities to be aware that I did not take on that opportunity of awareness, that, I'm now experiencing the repercussions of that, and being with experiencing those repercussions instead of, wondering how I was done wrong, or why doesn't anybody understand me, or, if only people understood exactly what I'm going through, they wouldn't be so harsh. All of that stuff is, that's not the kind of things that I would want to hear from people who have hurt me, that they just want to have excuses and justifications so that they never have to change. Absolutely, I would be upset about that, and I would shut down about that, and I would say, you're done, you're out. I'm not going to give you more opportunities because my happiness is more important than that. So, learning distress tolerance skills and coming to a place where I have the capacity to be aware, i.e. capacity being not letting the overwhelming feelings of distress when I face something that feels distressing to push me into a place of I feel comfortable living in a fog. So capacity not meaning that I don't have this capability, but more that I'm actively feeding into something that's good. And I can't tie this stuff in enough because it's all interconnected. When you think about the neural pathways when I think about the neural pathways that I want to foster, create, foster, strengthen, improve, part of this is handling situations of relationships where I'm not experiencing one thing and then I have a feeling, an emotion, a sensation that travels between this, because that's the neural pathway that I have had in the past. That's part of a maladaptive, structure within my brain, and I want to change that structure. Stuff is so freaking important, and it's all interconnected. So, going back to the skill in particular that has helped me with letting go, the trauma was real then. Now I am not in that situation, so I can let go. That particular skill is called drop the rope. So the way that it was presented to me, I think, was really, really cool. It showed a hot air balloon kind of floating over houses and trees, and there's a rope hanging off of this hot air balloon, and there's a guy at the end like desperately clinging on for their life. And this wasn't actually in the picture itself, but this is what I thought of, was being in this position where, because they're holding on to the rope, they're being dragged over rooftops and treetops and just abused and battered by the surroundings around them that have nothing to do with the actual hot air balloon. It has to do with holding on and allowing myself to be battered by the things that just naturally come through in life, because I can't let go of this aimless wandering thing. I think that was really powerful about the analogy as well, or this visual, is that it's a hot air balloon. My trauma, my past, things that have hurt me, that have made a serious impact in my life, that have created that complex, neural network that hurts me. It does not do me good. It's this directionless, irrational hot air balloon that just goes whichever way with the wind. And identifying with the trauma is grasping onto that rope. And as the trauma drags me through life, things that should normally be just an experience of walking through life instead leads to battering, bruising, upset, pain, to things that are just totally unrelated to what's happening in the present moment. So dropping the rope was this great experience for me to step back from the trauma and not identify it with anymore. It allowed the trauma to become its own entity that I would literally do this to myself too. In front of my eyes, I would bring down the concept of whatever trauma was interrupting my life at that moment. And I would open up my hands and I would just release it, and I would step back. And that was actually part of a grounding skill too. It wasn't just a stress tolerance. It was bringing myself back into this moment so I could be present within this moment. So I realized that I kind of went down a winding path there. But I wanted to give you an example of what, just get over it. Like, what does that look like? I had to take this class, this hospitalization program on distress tolerance, to have these visual understandings that, I am somebody who is deeply philosophical and relies a lot on, these cognitions and conceptualizations and putting those into words, and thinking about them deeply. So I got, what I got out about it, like especially the part about the hot air balloon having symbolism and blah, blah, blah. But these methods of deployment are available to so many different people. And because they're often visual and just a simple little sentence and not a grand treatise on how to change oneself. And they're not platitudes, or just like unaccepting of real life horrible experiences. All of these skills that I want to share with y'all that I have learned, and that I want to see deployed in my life, that I'm sharing with you in real time what it looks like to deploy these skills in my life through the distress that I experience, or the situations that I experience in real time. I don't know, I really want to show what that looks like so that you can take from that. And I found too that the more that I'm sharing these concepts with y'all, the more that I take them seriously for myself, because I'm reviewing it with another person. I'm not just reviewing it with myself. So, you know, the other day I was running into some issues with my son, and I remembered the video that I did on being with, and it really made an impact with me on bigger, stronger, wiser, kind, as far as being a better parent is concerned. And it really made a big impact on me. And I was able to change in that moment in ways that typically for me would have been a lot harder to practice, because of how much, you know, in order to handle distress, I turn toward living in the fog, because distress is distressing, you know, it does not feel good. And that has been, you know, my mechanism for coping, is to retreat, to shut down. And, you know, how does that affect relationships? Particularly the type of shutdown that I do. And I think that this is probably a good representation for most people who shut down and release responsibility, and you know, are no longer taking on the consequences of their own actions. Me not taking on the consequences of my own actions, or even seeing a situation where I need to be making a moral decision, and I just say to myself, oh, well, you know, I'm so hurt, I'm so damaged, I'm so upset that I am released from responsibility. How that manifests in my life is codependence. I show up, I'm hurt, I'm upset, I need help. You know, I have been treated poorly. Look at all of these things that have happened to me. And people who are benevolent and caring, and sometimes people who are on that opposite end of codependence, where, you know, in order to avoid issues with control in their own life, they latch on to others who need a savior, you know. So there's two ends to that codependence spectrum. There's, like, you know, a north and a south pole that magnetize together. So whether I'm meeting people who are benevolent or who are also codependent, it comes into this place where my neediness appeals to people who want to see change and who want to see me do better. And in many of these situations, over and over and over, I've been in a place where I continue to not accept responsibility even after receiving help. And people who are into codependence are going to go down that path with me. It's just going to get worse. I'm going to end up, you know, seeing all of the things that are wrong with them and make excuses for myself because, oh, you know, this person was just so bad and it was all them and it was never me, and they took advantage of things that were difficult about me, or that I had weaknesses about this, and it releases me from responsibility, you know, for my own problem, even if that person was or those actions were truly evil and horrible and bad. Like, let's say that I'm getting beat every day by, you know, my husband or whatever, you know, like my life partner. However, I still have the responsibilities of myself to not be in these places where I need a savior constantly. And the person who ended up showing up as a savior was somebody who likes so much control that I have no ownership even over my own body, because, you know, they're going to beat me into being the right person or whatever it is, whatever the thing is. The only relationships that are going to move forward where I continue to not accept responsibility are going to be codependent relationships. What happens when I don't accept responsibility with people who are truly good, loving, wonderful people is that I destroy those relationships. The relationships that are deeply important to me. And, you know, it kind of makes me think about drug addiction, because addiction is often an expression of codependence. You know, addiction is an expression of living in the fog, releasing reason to be able to feel numb, be away. And that's often how directly I want to feel. I want to be numb. That also ties into SI of saying, like, you know, if this is the way that I feel, then I don't want to feel at all. I never want to feel again, ever. Have the capacity to feel anything again. Have the capacity to have my mind on again. And the ultimate expression of that is the end of being. I don't know, this is kind of opening up my eyes a lot to what is the purpose of SI. The purpose of SI is kind of the ultimate fog. SI is going to be a term that I use often. Check out what the description is, what that term means in the description. There's a lot of censorship that happens nowadays that shuts down these important communications. And I'm going to do my best to keep the communication going about choosing to do better in the face of real struggle. A struggle that, you know, it doesn't make my pain or the things that I experience not real. Like, you know, the physical neural connections where I experience something and then on the other end, my brain lights up. These are physical things that happen as a result of a trauma or, you know, other issues. But it doesn't make me any less responsible for changing that, for creating new neural networks. And the way that I create these is through learning more about how to overcome it, figuring out what just get over it means in a way that honors what I've been through and respects that I require responsibility in order to achieve change. If I release responsibility for myself, I'm no more good than a vegetable. The world just happens to me. Something really, really important that my brother told me years ago, the first time that I was dealing truly with having thoughts of not moving forward and letting go of, my life. He said, every time I drink a glass of water or I put food in my mouth, I'm choosing life. So if I'm truly not responsible for my change, then how is it that I still choose to put water in my body and take a bite of food? How, if one thing is if one thing I can be responsible for on a most basic, small level, that's not just an autonomic, my breath filling up my lungs with air, my heart beating, things that are just autonomic systems. Choosing to put sustenance into my body is a rational choice of life. It's a moment of not living in the fog. I just take that and I expand it. And the way to expand it is to accept my responsibility. With awareness comes accountability. What that means is seeing where I have chosen fog, even through the pain of what I experience. Seeing that I have chosen fog in the midst of that pain, and accepting that I could make a different choice is what responsibility is. It's what accountability is. And that awareness hurts because I'm present with the pain that I experience. I'm present with what causes me distress. Again, going back to the neural network thing, I have a stimulus, an outside experience, we'll call it a trigger. I see something, I smell something, I have an interaction. In my brain, it connects back to an emotion, a feeling, a memory. That's lit up. Once I get to that emotion, that memory, that feeling, I tell my brain to shut down. I find ways, like today, after I had a really tough conversation today, a conversation that was incredibly painful. And a big part of that pain was that I was responsible for the outcome of that conversation. It's a huge part of the pain. And I sat and I wanted to shut down so bad. I turned on my TV and I put on a show, and I couldn't even focus on the show because of how much pain I was in. And I remembered my DBT skills. I remembered that distract myself from the immediate pain so that I'm not so overwhelmed that I've pushed myself into a place of dissociation, panic attacks, just system overload. So handle the immediate distress. And then as soon as I integrated that thought for that particular moment, saying like, okay, right now I'm handling distress. As soon as I'm to the point where I can actually pay attention to the show that's on and understand what's going on, I turned it off because I was like, I'm ready to face this. And, my journaling right now is this. Some of the feedback that I received was, that I refuse to deeply think about what's going on. I keep choosing to not go down certain paths to look at what's going on in front of me. And, something that's tough for me is just believing anything that anybody says without giving my own 2 cents about what do I need to do next. Instead, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm such this horrible person. I don't have a right to try to fix it because I'm so bad. I'm so unacceptable. And when I started this channel, I told myself, I was advised by my therapist, hey, start journaling. And I said, I'm going to journal through YouTube so that I could share my experience with others. And I don't ever want this to turn into a performance. I'm here right now talking about the thing that's going on in my life because I want the visibility. I want the vulnerability. I don't want to be in the fog. Even if I've ruined that relationship because of my decisions, I don't have to ruin my life over that. And this is the journaling that I'm doing. I talked earlier about, I did all of these things on gentle parenting, and my parenting has so many flaws. Like my son's flunking school and he keeps skipping school. And, a lot of that has to do with my, struggles with parenting, bad moral decisions about how I parent. And yet I'm over here giving y'all advice. That advice is not coming from my wisdom. of experience. It's coming from having seen something that's worth doing, that makes so much sense, that addresses the problems within myself, and then deciding that that's what I'm going to do to change. And sharing that with y'all, talking about it, I am clearly implementing it in my life. And that's the purpose of journaling, right? So I started this channel for my journaling. Absolutely, I am here to connect with my audience, but I wouldn't first be here to connect with you if I didn't see something in myself that was worth saving and changing, something precious about me that's worthy of life, that's worthy of thriving, of happiness, of morality. I feel like, when I was thinking of writing those love letters to you, I wanted to write a book of love letters to you. I talked about this in my love letters video, that I wanted to be the recipient of those letters, but I couldn't even conceptualize it at the time that I was worthy of those things. And I still have issues with that conceptualization. That's why I'm over here talking to you for my journaling versus journaling with my own self. And I still agree that if I sat down with my own self and started journaling, I would engage in deep internal lies because I'm confused. When I think about myself, the deep ideas that I hold about my worthlessness, my inability to function in a way that makes sense, how broken I am, how traumatized I am. The trauma was real then. Those neural connections are real, but they are not the end all be all. The fog is not something that is a requirement of my life. Absolutely, being in horrible pain is horrible. Horrible pain is horrible. Yeah. The only way to get through it, though, onto the other side is to be with it, deal with it, and resolve it. Get over it. And I don't know, dude, like if I could get over it, what a great future. I mean, don't we all just want to get over it? When we hear those messages, when I hear those messages, I'm like, you don't think that I want to get over it? Of course I want to get over it. But what does that look like? And what it looks like is exercising the skills that I have learned. Also, what it looks like is being aware that my actions have consequences, that we aren't all looking for the person down the line that was the first cause of the first sin, Adam and Eve ate of the apple, and therefore I live a fallen life. If only they hadn't eaten the apple. Like, what? It's just really silly. The fact that I have this beautiful relationship that right now is being incredibly challenged or perhaps even broken. I don't want to give a final judgment on that, but right now there is some serious brokenness to this very, very cherished relationship that I have. The fact that it existed is the fact that I'm capable of it. The actions that I did to hurt that relationship show that what I do is meaningful. And I accept that. I accept that responsibility. I think that that's wonderful and beautiful, that I was the one to cause hurt. Because if I wasn't the one to cause hurt, I'm just a vessel. I'm just this empty, toy of manipulation. I'm not that thing. So, I explored a lot of different ideas today. I explored, codependence, drug addiction. I don't even think that I got fully down that road of drug addiction, but, addiction is choosing the fog. And I do want to say something more about the addiction bit, because this is what I was thinking when I was sitting in the worst of the pain before I chose to step back. And at first I wanted to do avoidance, and then I realized, no, I need to do distraction so that I could return to the issue. But the pain that I was sitting in at that moment was thinking of myself in my head, of somebody coming to me, seeing me high or drunk or whatever, just whatever type of drug-induced blah, 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 or trying to, slinking back over to my family after being on a binge and just saying, I have nowhere to sleep or eat, or, I have no clothes, I have nothing, I just need your help. And then being screamed at, you know what? You're not helping yourself, and you need to go back exactly where you came from, because you've hurt me and I don't trust you anymore. I've said that to people in my life who are going through different things, because I needed that. I needed that for my peace. I don't trust you anymore. You need to figure that out on your own. And in my mind, what was playing through was me feeling that hurt so deeply that I just crawled right back and got high again. Thought of a lot of different things, but I just thought deeply about those parallels between, codependence, drug addiction is a type of codependence, right? It's a type of releasing responsibility for great problems, to choose fog over choosing being awareness. And I'm choosing to be with that experience of watching myself crawling back to the avoidance while I was watching that show, and at first thinking in my head, I'm going to be avoidant right now. I just need this moment to fade away so that I can go on living my life as I have. And that is actively choosing fog. And instead, I started in real time as I was watching this show and trying to actually be able to watch what was coming in and listen to it and interpret it as a real message, versus just staring blankly and hearing noise without words. As I was doing that, and I started to come to, while still, having all of these images shuffling through my head of me crawling out to addiction and crawling out to return to the only thing that understands me, the only thing that understands me is the thing that's hurting me. I instead said, I need to journal. And the way that I'm journaling is through these videos, through connecting with you. And even if while I was going through the extreme parts of my distress, I was thinking my channel is really just a show. It's just me parading around and dancing around, showing off all of my problems and trying to make it look like it's so acceptable and so okay. And I need to give up this act. I had to remind myself that that is a type of cop-out. If I'm here to journal, I'm going to journal. I'm going to do the thing. The thing is journaling. That's what I'm here for. I know this is a sort of meandering video, and if y'all stuck through with it, I really hope that this gave you some perspective into both my life and the shambles that I live in, that I'm actively addressing, that for some reason you're here watching this, feeling empowered in your own life, and you're getting that from me. Just as I feel worthless, helpless, hopeless, disgusted, disgusting by having hurt something so precious to me, you're worthy of change too. And talking to you in that manner reminds me of my worth, my power through responsibility, through productivity, through changing my life. And it's hard to sit with that. But with awareness comes accountability. I'm wishing you awareness for today. Happy hump day. We're almost all the way through we're halfway through that week. So keep it up. Keep coming back.